On today's show, I want to predict the Broncos' Week 1 starting lineup against the Seattle Seahawks, turning injuries off, of course, but now that the draft and most of free agency is in the books, who ultimately will be starting at the 22 starting spots for Week 1 for Denver? So let's get started with the quarterback position, where I'm going to change my mind. Up until this point, I've been saying I believe Jarrett Stidham will start Week 1, and a part of me and a good chunk of me still believes that is to be the case, but I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to go with Bo Nix taking the first snap for the Broncos in Week 1. Now, there is a very real chance that Jarrett Stidham does start Week 1, and don't look at Bo Nix's draft spot as an absolute that he is this team's Week 1 starting quarterback. Take a stroll down memory lane with me. There are a lot of quarterbacks who have gone round 1 in recent years that did not start Week 1. I mean, some of them were more obvious than others, like Trey Lance and Jordan Love, but Tua was dealing with an injury, not the case for Bo Nix. But Justin Herbert, he did not start Week 1. It wasn't until a team tried to puncture the lung of Tyrod Taylor that Justin Herbert took over. Take it a step further, not even Josh Allen started Week 1, right? Baker Mayfield was the first overall pick of the draft, and the guy did not even start Week 1. So there are a lot of cases where quarterbacks going round 1 did not start Week 1. But ultimately, I think Bo Nix does not fall into that camp the more I think about it, because a lot of those guys needed some time to learn and develop. Bo Nix needs 0 time to learn and develop. There is no quarterback in the history of quarterbacks that have gone on to play in the NFL that need less time to learn and develop than Bo Nix. The guy started 61 games in college football, an FBS record. He knows everything there is to know, hopefully at this point, about playing the quarterback position going into the NFL. He'll learn more, but at this point, no one should be more knowledgeable about the quarterback position of all the rookies in quarterback history than Bo Nix. So for that reason, and the fact that Sean Payton loves him so much, he took him at pick number 12, I feel like Bo Nix will ultimately find a way to win the job. And I know that I've said Jarrett Stidham before, and maybe I'm being a bit of a prisoner of the moment right now, but turn injuries off, I think Bo Nix will somehow win this starting job, which I say somehow as if it's a long shot. It's not at all. Jarrett Stidham does not come in with a long history of really solid quarterback play. The guy has started 4 games in his NFL career. So give me Bo Nix. Who do you think will be the Week 1 starter? Mark me down as changing my mind right now. Zach Wilson's the long shot for sure. Jarrett Stidham or Bo Nix are the 2 much more likely options. I was Team Stidham, and a good chunk of me still believes it, but the majority of me is going with Bo Nix. I'm typing a 10 down below. First running back will be Javonte Williams. No surprise here, right? You've got highlight reel Jaleel, Samaje Perine, Audric Estime, but I ultimately believe it will be Javonte Williams. Not to try even stir the pot or give a hot take here. No, it's going to be Pookie Williams taking the first handoff for this team, and hopefully we see a big season out of him. It's a contract year. He's 2 years removed from that very severe knee injury in 2022. I've got high expectations for the former UNC Tar Heel. So Javonte Williams, in my eyes, will be your starting running back Week 1. That is not a hot take or anything at all. So now that we've got quarterback and running back out of the way, let's look at wide receivers, where I think we're going to see Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Josh Reynolds be the top 3 wide receivers for this team. Last year, Sutton was one of the best when it came to hauling in touchdowns, 10 to be exact. Marvin Mims showed a lot to like early in the season. Then he kind of faded away and just had a special teams kind of presence for the rest of the year. Josh Reynolds was a really solid number 3-ish, number 2, depending on how Jameson Williams was playing for the Lions. However, he did have the case of the dropsies in the 49ers game. So one name that's not on this list right here is Tim Patrick. And I don't think Tim Patrick will be the Week 1 starter. I think it's very much in the cards for Tim Patrick to take over Josh Reynolds' role as that number 3 wide receiver, and maybe even push for the number 2 job if we see the 2021 version of Tim Patrick emerge. But ultimately, for a guy coming back from an ACL and an Achilles injury, I feel like Week 1 may be just a tad too soon to see him get in the starting lineup. Talk to me in week 6 or week 7, may very well be Tim Patrick at that point. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Will a Broncos wide receiver reach 1,000 yards this season? I'm not inclined to believe so. I'm going to go with an N for no. I hate to be a rain cloud, but if Courtland Sutton couldn't do it last year, I'm not sold on anyone doing it in Bo Nix's rookie season. Starting tight end in week 1, I'm going to go with Adam Trautman, the Broncos tight end from last year who started a bulk of the games. Greg Dulcich is a candidate for this spot, but ultimately I think it's going to be Trautman's to lose. And my gut feeling is even when you turn injuries off, I've got to see it to believe it with Dulcich. And all I've seen is him have some good games, but no consistency because of the injuries. And that sucks. But Trautman, I think, walks into training camp as the starting tight end. Offensive line. We've got some obvious ones here and then some not so obvious. Garett Bolles, Ben Powers, Quinn Meinerz, Mike McGlinchey. They are starting offensive linemen this year. There's no ifs, ands, nors, buts about it. Sam Mustipher, on the other hand, now we can get into our debate bag here. I think Mustipher will be the week 1 starting center because of his experience over guys like Luke Wattenberg, a 5th-round pick out of Washington from 2022, and Alex Forsyth, a 2023 7th-round pick out of Oregon. But this is going to be one of the most competitive training camp battles. It's actually even going on right now. OTAs, mini camp battles. These 3 guys are all competing for the starting center job. And while Sam Mustipher, when you look at his career PFF grades, does not look like a very good center because, I hate to break it to you, I don't think he is. I think the experience factor is going to get him to the front of the line to begin. And now it just becomes a question as to whether or not he can hold on to that spot. I mean, look at his career snaps against Wattenberg and Forsyth. Maybe one of these 2 guys show us something that we haven't seen because they've been behind Lloyd Cushenberry for a year or 2. But when all 3 guys walk into training camp and they call for the first team offense, the guy that's played 52 games and has started for multiple seasons in the NFL, I think is ultimately going to get the nod. And whether or not he holds that job is a different debate. But I think he will have the job for week 1. Let's switch gears to the defensive line now. My 3 starting defensive linemen include Zach Allen, DJ Jones, and then John Franklin Myers. No surprise on the Zach Allen front. I wish it was Josh Allen, a quarterback. But DJ Jones, I think, will hold on to that starting nose tackle job. He wasn't very good last year, let's be honest, but is there anyone better? No. John Franklin Myers, remember, that's the guy they traded for during the draft. I think they're looking to add a little bit more pass rush help. I think the run-stopping unit needs more help, if anything. But regardless, I think he'll be one of the 3 starting down linemen. As for your linebackers, I've got Baron Browning, Alex Singleton, Cody Barton, and Jonathan Cooper. Singleton and Barton aren't surprises. Maybe we see someone push Cody Barton for that starting inside linebacker job, like a Jonas Griffith, a Justin Stranad, right? Maybe a Drew Sanders. But the inside linebacker job, that seems pretty well sewn up to me. Outside linebacker, in a similar boat, I think Browning and Cooper are your traditional starters, but we're going to see a good mix of Nick Bonito like we did last year. It will be a pretty fluid rotation between those 3 guys. And then we'll see if Jonah Ellis can kind of crack that rotation as well, the rookie out of Utah. Now, we're going to look at the rest of the defense in just a moment, but if you're looking for a Broncos YouTube channel for the entire offseason, join 22,000 plus strong here as we approach the next milestone, 23,000. Hit the sub button down below. Corners. Pat Surtain, duh. Levi Wallace, I have at CB2, and then Ja'Quan McMillian when they run a nickel defense as your nickel cornerback. Now, Levi Wallace and Ja'Quan McMillian both had really strong seasons a year ago. McMillian was just a takeaway machine from the interceptions to the fumbles and the sacks. Levi Wallace played some really solid defense and some solid cornerback play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Levi Wallace over the likes of a Riley Moss, a Damari Mathis. Chris Abrams-Drain, I think, is going to project to be a really solid nickel corner. I don't think he's big enough to play outside. So I think when it comes down to Wallace, Moss, and Mathis, I'm going to go with the veteran here in Levi Wallace. As for the safeties, I've got Brandon Jones and PJ Locke. I'm I'm a big Caden Stearns fan, but I think Locke being re-signed and the way he was kind of the first guy off the bench last year, every time Kareem Jackson got suspended, I think that's a good sign as to where the Broncos want to go in the post-Justin Simmons era. Now, they signed Brandon Jones to a hefty-ish, I guess, 3-year, $20 million contract. So he's going to be a starter. And then ultimately it comes down to PJ Locke, Caden Stearns, and some other guys competing. And my gut tells me it'll be PJ Locke out there. So get used to this kind of new safety tandem. For years it was Justin Simmons and K-Jack. Now I think you're going to see Brandon Jones and PJ Locke be your two high-end safeties patrolling the defense, which it'll be an adjustment, but I think PJ Locke has shown some good snaps. And if Caden Stearns gets on the field, the question's never been about his production on the field. It's just about staying on the field. So hopefully a couple of Texas Longhorns right here can put together a really good back end to this defense. Now, which side of the ball do you think will be better? The offense or the defense? I'm inclined to go with the defense just because rookie quarterbacks are so fun right when you draft them and up until the games start. And then there's like that, forgot they're a rookie quarterback and there's going to be some growing pains. And not going to panic, but there's going to be some bumps along the road. And I think the defense will likely probably be a little bit more even keel throughout the entire season. That's going to do it for us on this edition of the Broncos Breakdown. Hope you enjoyed our show. If you did, leave us a like. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you all later.